had a great thought. Maybe I can get Gip to edit this for me. Fingers crossed.
He'll edit out all the times we insulted it.
There'll be a lot of dead air.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the unofficial Untitled FWA Podcast. It is me, SS, and I'm joined tonight by my partner in crime, Man. Good evening, Man.
Hello, mate. Evening.
Good evening. And also we have a super special guest, as I mentioned yesterday, drifting in from the high plains with his spurs jingling and jangling like a Johnny Marr guitar riff. It's Tommy Bedlam. The Cowboy is here to join us tonight for this year in review edition. Good evening, Tommy.
Howdy, y'all. I'm pretty sure that's how I was supposed to open up. So now,
Perfect.
maybe can pop that I said howdy, y'all.
You said it twice.
Twice, yes.
Live in the gimmick. I like it, like the Undertaker or MJF.
There you go.
Impressive. Okay, so as you can see, we're going to be reviewing the year just gone by, as well as looking ahead a little bit to the one that is to come. And it's difficult to believe that 2022 began with Crash as the FWA World Champion, given that so much has happened in the 365 days since then. But that's how it was when the White Wolf emerged from Mile Massacre at the start of the year with a big belt, thus becoming the only character and indeed handler to earn a triple crown in both the FWA and CWA. Chris Crow entered the year with the North American title, and Golden Rock had the tag team championships, whilst Harry the Same Wizard was the now defunct Gauntlet champion. 4 of the 5 belts were held by characters or teams that no longer exist in the same form, and even one of those titles has disappeared too. The X Championship has been the one constant, with Aleister Black beginning and indeed closing the year with the FWA's hardcore title intact. The year started with a bang with Meltdown 10's Bounty Hunt, where Devin Golden won his 4th World Championship in the Fed in a frantic, entertaining and controversial night. He wouldn't hold on to it for long, though, as Nova Diamond cashed in his Golden Opportunity briefcase only 2 Meltdowns later on Meltdown 12 to deprive Golden of his title and the forthcoming pay-per-view main event. Meanwhile, also on Meltdown, Michelle Von Horowitz and Gerald Grayson went undefeated in the Tag Wars tournament, eventually besting the teams at the Stock Market and Cyrus and Crash in the Jailhouse Blues final, setting up a triple threat match with Nova at the Grand March, which MVH would go on to win. This was the beginning of a second reign and, amazingly, the 4th world champion in a single cycle. Chris Crow, meanwhile, was busy with Dan Maskell, who, after 2 cycles of defeating jobber characters, was given his North American Championship shot at the Grand March, but came up short in his efforts to dethrone the showman. Aleister Black accrued 2 impressive defenses in this first cycle, first seeing off Sean Summers on Nailed to the X, and then defeating Gabriel at the zenith of a classic rivalry between the 2 former partners. This rivalry included the reuniting for Fallout 13's tag team battle royale, although this match was won by Stu Grimes and Cornelius Aurelius Caesar, who would go on to defeat Golden Rock later that night in what proved to be that tandem's final match as a pairing. Harry the Same Wizard sealed his status as Gauntlet God by making the 5, thanks to a victory in a triple threat match over Joe Burr and Sawyer Xavier in the Grand March's other final championship match. Elsewhere on March's pay-per-view, Jason Randall picked up an impressive victory when he defeated Lizzie Rose and Johnny Johnson in a triple threat match, righting some of the wrongs of a miserable Tag Wars run thanks to the influence and indifference of Reagan Cole. Conchu Howe and Epsilon earned their revenge over the Undisputed Alliance after Phoenix and Savage destroyed poor Epsilon and Machu Picchu earlier in the cycle, when they won a 3-way tag team match that also included the buddy system, earning Conchu and Epsilon a title opportunity. Finally, Thomas West and Uncle JJJ ensured that it was a fantastic weekend for the nephews, with Jay triumphing over Danny Toner in the climactic battle of their 6-month-long feud, and West winning the first King of the Deathmatch tournament on the Granary and setting up his now infamous championship match with Michelle Von Horowitz at the Carnal Contendership. That was a brief recap of the first cycle of the year, the winter cycle. As you can see, a lot went down in that first cycle. 4 world champions. I'm going to come to you first, Tommy. Yeah, you were around at this stage. You were competing in the Tag Wars tournament, I believe.
Yep.
So yeah, what are your recollections of this? When I was putting that together, I couldn't remember that most of this had happened this year, but there you go.
Yeah, I was around at least during the early part there. The obviously I was a little biased because of the Death Switch Initiative stuff, but Chris Crow's North American title reign I thought was just a thing of beauty. The stuff that BT was putting out at that phase was on a whole other level. And I actually told him, I remember one evening we were in our little stable group chat, and I told him, I said, man, I really feel like I'm bringing you down just by being here. But no, that entire early cycle, I had some great storylines, some great content. The Tag Wars was a friggin' blast. Just even be a little part of and
Yeah.
to get to hang out and watch all that unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my favorite thing about that concept was the fact that all of the teams were two-handler teams that I didn't even realize until halfway through the tournament that by design every team had two handlers with it. And I agree with what you said about Battle Tank as well. I hope he comes back so I can get my W back and avenge the L that you inflicted on me. But there you go. Man, what are your recollections of this early phase of 2022?
I forgot all of that happened. You know what my memory's like, probably better than most people. So, yeah, there was a lot going on. I think especially on Meltdown. I seem to think that kind of early brand split that Fallout was kind of where a lot of people were paying more attention to. But I think the turn of 2022 thing with the Bounty and Tag Wars, I do think it switched for the second half of the brand split. That Meltdown was probably, arguably, the more had more going on. I think, not that we weren't doing anything on Fallout, but Meltdown, every episode was like, can't miss, something big was happening with the Bounty, the cash in, and all the Tag Wars, and I think John and Jimmy did a really good job through that period, steering all that. Speaking of Fallout, one thing, I mean, we had the musical episode, which I think probably stands out as one of the best single episodes that I've been involved in. I think the concept which was yours, it was just a fantastic concept, and you were a big force behind the execution as well. But I think what we did with that show was so out of the box, and I'd be very surprised if anyone had ever done it in any event before. Being part of that, I was very happy to be part of
that. Yeah. What do you think of the criticisms of? I'll ask you about both. First, of the bounty itself. I don't think the idea was criticised, but maybe the timing of Crash having just triumphed in a big multi-man match at Valheim Massacre and then being put into another one on the next Meltdown show. What are your thoughts about that?
So I mean, it's the way it goes sometimes. Really, I mean, as a mod team, we do have to make sure that belts are defended regularly. I mean, we had a conversation early today, SS, where we were, thinking about defenses and things, and we realised, with a planned defence, there was going to be a champion going 4 months without defending their title, which which isn't really fair on everyone else. So, I understand the, a bit of frustration maybe, coming so soon, but the bounty was a pre-announced thing. I'm saying I've got kind of a politician hat on at the moment. It was a pre-announced thing. Everyone kind of knew it was coming up. There was going to be the same thing for everyone, for regardless of whoever won Maha Massacre, they knew that's what they were going into. And to be honest, I think I don't want to bring up a negative as well, but from what I recall, another criticism was the whole only former world champions thing, which I think as a mod makes sense. So you're not grading like 20 promos, because grading 20 promos takes forever. But I think that there was a bit of that side of it as well. And Crash going into that defense, knowing he was only going to be facing like the best of the best, the Meltdown had to offer on in the former world champions. So I can see the criticisms, but it's unfortunately just the way it goes sometimes. We our job as mods is to come up with exciting concepts and make them work in the timetable, because we had Tag Wars. Did Tag Wars start on that show, or was it on the following
it
show?
started on that show. Yeah.
See, that's the thing. We had these two things, and you had these two things we were doing, and we needed to do them both. And I think what worked better was just getting, the singular event out of the way, which was the bounty, and allowing then everyone to then focus on the Tag Wars, which was a longer running thing.
Yeah.
So, there are fair criticisms, but I think the reasons for doing it, are reasonable reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Tommy, anything to add?
No, I thought the overall the feel of the bounty hunt was one of the most creative things I'd ever seen in an EFED. Honestly, at the time when it was all unfolding and everything, and JB, the guy that handled the James Douglas character, he and I were talking about it, and I told him, I said, this just feels to me like something that Impact would have done kind of at its peak, when Impact was just putting out really different content.
Yeah.
Maybe I enjoyed it more because I didn't have to actually be in it. So there's no stress for me. I'm just sitting back and watching this whole thing unfold. But I loved the bounty hunt angle.
Well, and I think Tommy raises a good point. Sorry, SS. It was a good concept, and it was executed so well.
Yeah.
The show itself, it was tense, and then TGO writing that ending was fantastic. The way where he's Devin Golden literally sailing off into the sunset, with the title it just stole, he'd just taken, and then even though the following reign was short, it was a good little reign there he had there. It was some of the character work he was doing at that point in time was some of the best in the Fed at the time.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I was in the bounty, obviously, and I thought that was awesome. The bounty, it was amongst my nominations for the end of year awards. I think not for show of the year, although it could very well have been. Probably my favorite episode of Meltdown or Fallout this year was the bounty, but just the angle itself, I thought was really good, and I would love to do it again. If I ever get to be world champion again, then we'll do a roster wide bounty hunt. Maybe that'd be fun. I'll briefly mention the criticisms of the musical episode as well. Talk of jumping the shark, but I think people need to calm down. It's not like we went into space or anything, is it? Okay, moving on then maybe to the spring cycle. So quite well, another monologue here from me. Sorry, I'm channeling my my inner Cyrus Truth here.
You're Excalibur.
Yeah. The year's second cycle started with a bang with the Carnal Contendership event, which only featured 3 matches but spawned lots of headlines. Firstly, Thomas West defeated FWA champion Michelle von Horowitz in only 12 seconds. With the podcast host, that's the fictional one, not the one talking, adding the biggest prize in the game to the crown of thorns he won at the King of the Death match. Meanwhile, Moot triumphed over the stock market to successfully defend the tag titles, whilst Conchu and Epsilon watched on and waited for their shot. And of course, in one of the moments of the year, Danny Tonin won the Carnal Contendership match, last eliminating who was it? Hang on, let me check my notes. Who came second in the match? Oh, Chris Peacock, last eliminating Chris Peacock. Then it was the road to back in business, and for the second year in a row, FWA's biggest supercard was split over 2 nights. There were 4 successful title defenses over the weekend, and 2 of them belonged to Alistair Black. Black Jesus won the second annual X4 tournament, defending his belt against Una on night 1 and then XYZ on night 2. After X had set that final up by triumphing over Cleo de Santos on the first night. Men Out of Time also defended the tag titles, seeing off the challenger Conchu and Epsilon in a Roman street fight, whilst Chris Crow added another feather to his cap by impressively beating Cyrus Truth, Jason Randall, and Johnny Johnson in a fatal 4-way match for his North American title. There were plenty of heated non-title feuds at the grand uncle of them all, as I believe the saying goes. Saint Sully defeated Joe Burr, a man who was once his tag team partner, whilst Lizzie Rose beat her ground zero mentor, Gabrielle, at the end of a highly underrated feud. Nova Diamond, in his last match in the company, overcame Philippe Jackson, who returned at the Carnival Contendership. Another returnee at that Battle Royale was Wolf, who suffered a similar fate against the remodeled Caden Knox. Reagan Cole recorded his first pay-per-view win of the year against Jeffrey Mason in a brutal death match, in a result that was considered an upset even after Dustin didn't promo. Chris Peacock saw an end to his rivalry with Devin Golden in Night 2's semi-main event, tapping out the former world champion in what was probably his biggest victory up to this point. But the biggest blood feud came to a close in Night 1's main event, where Mike Parr overcame Sean Summers at the climax XX of a year-long feud that spanned both shows, Meltdown and Fallout, straddling the brand split, and saw both men, but mostly Summers, commit fiendish acts against one another. Harry, the same wizard, continued his pay-per-view winning streak by picking up the Stop Sign number 2 Memorial Trophy in a trios battle royale with the Leviathans as his partner. It's worth noting that Harry was undefeated on pay-per-view until Dijo stopped writing for him and I took over. Also worth noting is that the match also featured Time Jump, although Mitch unfortunately couldn't promo, as he is stuck in a time loop, doomed to wish us good morning until the last sun sets over the FWA. One of the biggest stories of the weekend didn't happen inside the ring, with Crash and Randy Ramon brawling all over Rio in a continuation of the long-running rivalry between Golden Rock and the Gangstarz. These segments, which were amongst the very best and most entertaining of the year, finished with Randy Ramon and Crash both falling to their watery graves. Neither has been seen since, and it now seems likely that this Back in Business will be the final appearance for both of these future Hall of Famers. Perhaps the biggest events of the show provided a bookend effect, with MVH ending the 9-0 streak of Chris Kennedy at the beginning of Night 1, after spending months baiting the most decorated star in the FWA into the match. But even this was eclipsed at the end of Night 2, when Danny Toner finally won the FWA World Championship in a result that everyone, other than those affiliated with the nephews, wanted to see. Toner beat West at the end of an epic in Rio, but then shocked the world after this match by aligning himself with Rupert Watkins, Gabrielle, and Caden Knox, who not only reformed executive excellence, but also sent the FWA into a prolonged period of turmoil, the likes of which we have perhaps never seen. So yeah, another big cycle there. 2 pay-per-views really, Carnival Contendership and Back in Business. I'll come to you first this time, Man, because I don't think this one will be as familiar to Tommy this cycle. So Man, can you give us your thoughts on the spring cycle?
Sure. So I think this kind of was the rise and cementing of Danny Toner as the, even before he'd won the title, was probably like the top guy in the Fed. Tig's Carnival Contendership promo showed us all again how good he is, and the continuation of the nephew feuds. He started with Uncle, and then actually realizing that West was the big bad he had to deal with at the moment. Even though Danny himself wanted Michelle, and he didn't hide that. The way that feud carried on and developed, and you have the Danny side, but you also have the Thomas side of it, and everyone, even I myself, I remember thinking, oh my god, like John's secondary character is another world champion, and has thrown all the potential Back in Business plans, and completely up in the air, because it was, we were all pretty sure we were going to get Michelle versus Danny.
Yeah, me too, mate. Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So but I think what John did really well was actually, now Thomas West, John made it so he earned that spot. The character stuff he followed up with subsequently, and the angles that we did, including Chris Peacock killing a nephew, was that was great. Chris Peacock and Danny Toner killing a nephew, I've got to give Tig some credit. The way that West kind of emerged into that position, and actually this is a proper champion here. Someone who can be taken seriously. I think John needs to be commended a lot for that. My highlight of that cycle, apart from my Back in Business win, was obviously that 8-man tag team match was very fond memories for me against the nephews. That's a personal thing, but I think in your recap you touched on quite a lot of feuds that I think perhaps got a bit stepped on or overshadowed because of everything else that was going on. Like you mentioned, the Lizzie and Gabrielle stuff. Oz was doing really good stuff with Nova. Nova and Padge just conjured up a feud out of nothing and actually made it a good feud. It didn't feel thrown together in the slightest. They both did a really good job with that, and and the smaller things again, like with Conchu Epsilon and Moot and the X4 and the threads we were kind of trying to make there, and the same with the NA stuff. I think Back in Business was what was a really good event because nothing felt thrown together. There was no sense of we're just trying to get people on the card. It was more, every single match had a story to it, had a reason for happening, and a lot of that was down to the handlers and the work they put in. We were getting loads of really good segments, loads of ideas people wanted to do, and and I think that event worked so well, and it all kind of ended with the big read-throughs that a lot of people took part in. A lot of people were interacting with each other and get involved in. I think that was a big highlight for our year, kind of for our community as well. We
Absolutely.
all shared that. We all contributed to it, and I think everyone deserved a pat on the back for Back in Business because it was everyone's work.
For sure. Before I come to you, Tommy, I've just realised I forgot one match actually on the card. I forgot to mention it in my little recap, and I have to mention it, or I'll get 3 disappointed messages from Oz tomorrow and about 48 indignant messages from AON. The Power also defeated Luna Piper Back in Business, so I need to mention that. Tommy, to come to you, I know that you weren't around at that point, but do you have any thoughts on that cycle, or specifically any thoughts about Danny Toner's rise to the top?
That was actually, I wasn't actively engaged. I was kind of keeping up as much as I could and everything at the time. And really, I feel like the rise of Toner at that point to kind of bona fide main event status was kind of one of the big stories of the spring cycle, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it was one of the big stories the whole year, really, was Danny Toner. He was
absolutely.
a real force of nature in the first kind of 9 months, especially on pay-per-view. But yeah, that kind of year run, the whole brand split run of Danny Toner is remarkable, really, from the Fallout Eliminated tournament all the way through to Lights Out. Was something else, really, from Toner. Moving on then to the first part of the summer cycle. I've split this into 2 parts on account of the anniversary show appearing in the middle. So following Rupert Watkins's declaration that Fallout was no longer part of the Fantasy Wrestling Alliance and instead would exist as a standalone company, we saw a period of invasion and war between the 2 former brands that culminated at the FWA's 16th, I want to say, anniversary show. 17th, my bad. The opening contest of this pay-per-view saw many of the invasion's protagonists and antagonists pitted against one another in a Jailhouse Blues match. Cyrus Truth led Team Meltdown to a win over Sean Summers' Team Fallout. The rest of the night didn't go quite as well for Meltdown, though, outside of the Spirit Walkers capturing tag team championships when they overcame bad reputation. That match was set up after Knox and Gabrielle defeated Moot at Fallout Rebirth and broke hearts around the world by killing Stu Grimes after the contest. Meanwhile, on Meltdown, the Spirit Walkers, consisting of Aki Wright and Reagan Cole, who were thrown together following 2021 Secular Spectacular match to unsuccessfully challenge against Golden Rock for the tag team titles, won a 4-team tournament to win their own belts, setting up this champions versus champions match. Earlier in the night, Jean-Luc Watkins and John Rusno announced that they had bought Fallout from underneath Rupert Watkins and were re-merging it with Meltdown, bringing an end to the Fallout versus Meltdown storyline and also ensuring that the anniversary show could be filled with championship matches. Another of these saw Mike Parr return and shockingly join Executive Excellence as the fourth man. He would instantly make an impact when he defeated Johnny Johnson to earn the North American Championship, which had been sadly vacated by Chris Crow earlier in the cycle and then promptly picked up by the legend. Parr sealed his place in the history books as the name most synonymous with the North American title, beginning his fifth reign with the belt. Elsewhere on the card, we saw Khonshu Hao avenge the slight suffered during the invasions when he overcame Jason Randall. And then later in the night, the Nephew's civil war came to an end when Fallout's group, led by Uncle JJJ, overcame the Connections Meltdown team. We also had the revelation of last year's Hall of Fame class with Ryan Rondo Kaizen and Thomas Princeton, the chosen inductees for 2022. Along with Tommy Bedlam, who recently returned to the FWA to address old business with Jason Randall on the previous episode of Meltdown, setting out his goals for the months to come. The main event saw Danny Toner's first defense of his FWA World Championship when he competed against the self-styled FWA World Heavyweight Champion Devin Golden of Meltdown and the self-proclaimed FWA World X Champion Aleister Black. Black was currently without a brand, having been fired by Rupert Watkins and unable to sign with Meltdown due to his no-compete clause. Aleister would still defend his X-Championship outside of the FWA when he defeated Jason Randall at WrestleCon, despite threats of legal action from Fallout and Watkins about him doing so. This huge triple threat match between three men, all claiming to be the real world champion, saw Danny Toner retain his championship after using Ali's belt to incapacitate Black Jesus before hitting Devin Golden with an equalizer and picking up the three. So this was a very short cycle. There was only two well, it wasn't part of the cycle, but it was only two Fallouts, two Meltdowns, and then the anniversary show, I believe. So it was quite compact, but just to add more to the statement of facts there, I think this was probably my favorite cycle of the year, just because like literally everybody in the Fed was getting involved in this angle. Like it couldn't have gone any better in terms of engagement with people. I don't think, like, from everyone from Sawyer Xavier and the guys in that brand warfare match all the way up to the three guys in the main event. Like everyone went all in on this brand split, with one notable exception who seemed to disappear for this angle. But he's not even worth bringing up, is he, man? What are your thoughts, man, on the brand warfare angle and the first part of the summer cycle?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it follows on a bit from what I said with Back in Business and how involved everyone was. Everyone just kind of carried it on and kicked it up a notch for these shows. And going into the anniversary show, I think the anniversary show was a really good show. Everyone showed for it. Everyone, wanted to be a part of it, and everyone, contributed so much to the build. And it was another show where, it was everyone's show, and everyone, really cared about it. And, the way how everyone was so happy that, Sawyer Xavier was the one that got the pinfall in the brand warfare match. That's again, and Sean Summers, getting egg in his face. Everyone was just invested in it and buying into it, and it was great. And watching those stories develop and being involved, because you mentioned that there was someone missing. I made a conscious decision to I wanted to be an overseer of it all. I wanted to, help plan everything and not worry about my own characters and stuff like that. So, one of mine was written off at Back in Business, and the other one decided to take a holiday. So, I made a conscious decision just to, be involved with it, and the interactions I was having with people to plan angles, to write segments. People just like, oh yeah, just write this for me. I'm happy for you to do this. It was great. As a mod, that's the kind of stuff I enjoy doing. You messaged WrestleCon as well, which I think was really fun to be involved in. Anyone who really wanted to see Chris Peacock could have seen him there, and as well as the kind of the feedback I got from the people about the match I wrote between Jason Randall and Aleister Black. They were like, oh wow, we don't normally see matches like that. And so that was me attempting to kind of advertise the Fed a bit as well. Show that we are the best at what we do. But yeah, I think this is, it was another great example of great community engagement, and the main event promos. Those 3 promos were all good, all could have won. Grading that was probably the hardest grading experience I've had since becoming a mod, and the work that the 3 of them put into the build-up was just insane. So again, those 3 guys deserve a highlight, but everyone again can share in that show.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. The way that so many different characters took it in so many different ways as well, which is one of the things I said in the OOC post, is that we really want everyone to get involved, but obviously your characters can deal with it in completely different ways. If you compare how Cyrus approached it to how Summers approached it, and of course this was to Brock and Sully with the formation of the HWA. There was just so many different approaches to the same angle. It was brilliant. It was like real community progression of the stories that we were telling, which is great. The cycle where Tommy Bedlam made his much anticipated return. Well, I say much anticipated, but we didn't really know it was coming until it happened. But obviously a return that we were very excited for. We were very glad to see. Tommy, what do you remember of this? It must have been strange coming into the Fed, or returning to the Fed in the middle of this angle. What are your thoughts on the angle and returning in those circumstances?
Oddly enough, I signed up for the Fed right after the draft. So when the brand split happened, I signed up 1 or 2 weeks after the draft and got assigned a Meltdown. And then I leave and come back within a few days of the full-on Fallout versus Meltdown show. And that entire match, actually, I mean, the whole angle was great, but the Fallout versus Meltdown match was absolutely one of my favorite matches of the year. I'm not trying to jump ahead on what we're talking about, but I think I nominated it for one of my matches of the year. Yeah. But just the entire thing. Honestly, Vince McMahon wishes he could book Brand Warfare like you guys do.
Thank you, Hans.
Vince McMahon wishes he could do a lot of things like we do, but
that's exactly right. Like still be involved with this company.
There is that. Yeah. We're waiting for the big Mandalorian scandal, but it hasn't.
we already had the TGO mod.
Well, yeah. Hopefully that Mandalorian scandal doesn't come, because then I'll have even more work to do. But yeah, so did you face? I think you faced. Was it Jackson Phoenix in your first match back before the pay-per-view? Was that right, Tommy?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. And then no match. No, sorry, go
on. Oh, go ahead.
And then no match on the pay-per-view, but you had quite a lengthy Tommy Bedlam segment there. Yeah, so talk through your thought process about coming back. What were your goals coming back? Were you hoping to get back into the tag team division or move into the singles? Did you have any hopes of Death Switch Initiative being reformed, or what were your thoughts there?
I definitely didn't think DSI was going to come back, but for a week or two before I actually made the return, old Jay and I were kind of bouncing some ideas off each other, and this was before he had officially announced he was taking a break and all that. But I kind of wanted to do a Tommy Bedlam as a face versus Johnny Johnson feud. I thought that would have been entirely too much fun. That wound up not really working out. So truthfully, I had no clue where the character was going at that particular point. Somebody on the mod team, might have been Jimmy, had reached out to me and let me know we were going to do a Tommy versus Jason Randall match, and we were kind of going to revisit that. and that story sort of wrote itself. So that was nice. But yeah, I was just kind of jumping back in line to the time when it seemed like the entire roster was putting out top-notch content.
Yeah. Well,
except for Gip. His content was not top-notch. And I only say that because I've checked in the Discord and he's complaining that we're making fun of him on the podcast. So.
Well, he's he in this course?
I think that's 5 or 6 now, I think.
Well, yeah, you are right about the quality of the
covers behind you.
Sorry, you are right about the quality of the promos being put out at that time, but obviously you came in and hit the ground absolutely running. I can't remember who it was against the promo. It was Randall, wasn't it? It was the getting back on the ball after the Bulls. I was going to say tossed you off there, but I don't think that's a Kurt Angle angle, isn't it? But yeah, after the Bulls, after you've been knocked off the ball about climbing back on, and that promo just blew me away, as I've said before. It was great to have you back, of course. The Toner versus Black rivalry rolled on into the post-brand split world as we motored on towards Lights Out, with Danny Toner seemingly obsessed with the idea of removing Black Jesus' mask and revealing his true identity to the world. He didn't quite succeed in that endeavor, but Toner did manage to defeat Black for the second time this summer as the two went one-on-one in Lights Out's main event. The iconic rivalry, which dated all the way back to the Elite Tag Team Classic in 2020, drew to a close with Toner once more standing tall as the champion of the world. The tag division saw new champions again, the 5th of the year, when the Connection, also spawned in the aforementioned Tag Team Classic, defeated the Spirit Walkers in Lights Out's opening contest after winning the number 1 contendership spot against Bad Reputation earlier in the cycle. Another new champion was crowned in the form of Philip A. Jackson, who dethroned Sean Summers to become the new FWA television champion, with the title moving under the FWA banner after Fallout was brought back into the union. The North American Championship was not defended at the pay-per-view, but Mike Parr did not manage to keep hold of his prize until Lights Out, losing it to Lizzie Rose on the first post-brand split meltdown. Rose kept up her winning ways at the pay-per-view, defeating rival Johnny Johnson in a 2 out of 3 falls match to end their feud. Another program-ending match saw Cornelius or Aurelius Caesar defeat Uncle JJJ, with the Roman putting aside his quest for his fallen partner Stu Grimes in order to prioritize qualification for the forthcoming F1. Number 1 contendership, number 1 contenders aplenty were chosen at Lights Out as well. First and secular spectacular match where Nate Savage, Brian Baxter, Vampira, and Anderson Vega all earning opportunities in the second incarnation of FWA's version of Feast or Fired. And then later in the night, Chris Peacock finally overcame his second place hoodoo by winning the Golden Opportunity briefcase in the traditional steel roulette match. Much of the build had concerned 3 members of Executive Excellence, Caden Knox, Mike Parr, and Gabrielle, that qualified for the chamber match, but Peacock swept them along with Jeremy Best, Cyrus Truth, and Devin Golden aside in order to earn an FWA World Championship shot at a time of his choosing. The biggest, we also saw Tommy Bedlam, I believe, at this pay-per-view overcoming Jason Randall in order to put right the wrongs that Randall did on him at the climax of the Tag Wars tournament when he put Bedlam out for a lengthy period of time. The biggest event in this cycle, though, has nothing to do with the in-ring competition. In a shock heel turn, Ed announced that Wrestling Clique was to come to an end. The forum acted as a virtual home for a lot of us, except for the now forgotten handler Dijo, who declared that I, for one, am happy to be able to move on with my life. So that was the end of the second part of the summer cycle. Again, a lot happening there, including the closure of the forum. Big event, Lights Out, lots of debuts after we came to Smarks as well. I'll come to you first, Tommy, for, you had that kind of feud ender with Jason Randall there, and also F1 qualification was happening as well. Were you aiming to get into the F1, or were you aiming to build a feud outside of it, or what were your hopes there?
I had actually made it known privately that I had no interest in doing the F1, and that I wasn't going to do it. And at that particular juncture, Sean Summers was the television champion, and CBK and I were kind of kicking some ideas around about maybe working out a TV title feud. And he had mentioned that he didn't think he was going to jump in the tourney, so I was kind of trying to line some stuff up behind the scenes. And then just as things changed and evolved, I think I reached out to Man privately and shot him a message and was like, hey, if I earn a spot in the tournament, let's try it and see what happens.
So I remember those messages. I think we'd spoken about it, I think, a bit for a few days. And obviously me being kind of privy to your grades, I was like, oh, Tommy's definitely getting because, you know, your return match and the Jason Randall, you know, promo, I mean, before we even graded it, it wasn't going to score very high, and it did. And we were I think we were speaking in the staff chat saying, oh, you know, Tommy's going to get in. He's going to sneak in. And so, you know, you were telling me you weren't sure, and I was really trying to subtly nudge you into doing it because I was like, you would get in, because I think you were very unsure whether you would qualify. You know, and I think that.
Oh yeah, and I mean, if I'm just going to tell a story about how dumb I am, you know, JB and I had went to a house show the night that the podcast with the tournament draw was posted. And I was actually sitting in a parking lot, and I clicked on the podcast and kind of zoomed it towards the end, and I saw my name on the wheel, and I was like, oh, okay. So everybody on the wheel's not getting in the tournament. So I'm watching this thing unfold, and like names are coming off, and my name's still on there, and traffic and just all this stuff going on. I was like, no, there's no way. And then when it finally happened, I was like, oh, hell. I'm going to have to actually write something presentable. But
no, I think it was definitely, you know, it was really, you know, you coming back was a very pleasant surprise, but then also you know, what you were putting out was all, you know, for us, I think it was just quite a pleasure to read a lot of it. You know, the stuff you've been doing has been great, and you know, yeah, we're, like I said, we're really glad you came back, and you know, I think the fact that you're sitting there with the prospect of not just, you know, being one of the numbers in the F1, you've got a chance of getting it through. You've got a chance of making it through. You know, and that is a realistic chance as well, as much as I'm sure someone else in this call will disagree. So you know, I think, you know, you've definitely definitely showed us what you've got, and you've definitely earned your place in that. And you know that the promo Lights Out was kind of just the start. And, you know, you set up a lot of things in that promo, and watching you build on it as, you know, as the weeks have been going by has been really good to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree about a realistic chance of going through. I mean, I think if you were drawn in Pool B with the really weak field that there is in Pool B, I think you'd 100% be going through. But there you go.
We might be weak, but at least we can be consistent. I mean, with no changes in our pool.
There is that. Black versus Toner, then the main event of Lights Out. Huge match, end of a massive feud, as I say, dating back years. The Toner v Black rivalry, back to when we had the Toner brothers in the Elite Tag Team Classic. What were your thoughts on the feud and the match, man, at Lights Out? I think the promos of this match were unbelievable. Somehow even better than the three from Anniversary Show, in my opinion.
Again, it was impossible almost to pick a winner between them. You know, Tig and Raw are both extremely good writers, and you know, it showed they both know their characters extremely well. They're both strong characters, and you know, it was one of those ones where, you know, part of me was thinking, "Oh fuck it, should we just do a co-champions angle?" You know, like, because it was just so hard to choose between them. They were both so good, and you know, I'm really obviously, you know, circumstances notwithstanding, you know, I'm glad Raw has now, you know, got the chance to have a run with it, you know, because, you know, he's definitely earned it. And, you know, it's just a shame that, I myself, with the kind of contendership, just fell foul of Tig being on the run of his life.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of people who could have, made that step, but we've got someone who's just been in a class of his own almost this year.
Mhm.
The feud, the angle, the stuff with EE being kind of intertwined in it. We were planning a big multi-man match as well with one point with EE, combining EE, the Black and all the GO. I think it'd been a big 10-man main event, which would have been a lot of fun. But I think combination of some people just asking for weeks off, it just wasn't going to work.
Mhm.
But what we did have was still really good, and the fact there was all this other stuff going out, but it was still focused on it being these two guys who were both so good, both kind of battling just each other. Everything else was put to the side, despite there being so much other stuff going on. I think they both did such a good job building on what was done in the build to the anniversary show and bringing in all of those, all the historic elements. Again, those two have both been phenomenal this year.
Tommy, any thoughts on the Alistair Black character? Well, we are going to get to the next cycle. Actually, before we get to that, we'll just briefly recap the winter cycle. You might be pleased to hear I haven't got a monologue for this section because we are still in the midst of it. But quite a lot of events in this cycle already. We obviously had Danny Turner vacating the world title, as you've alluded to, which was won by Alistair Black in the preceding Battle Royale. Not the only new champion. We saw Vampira winning the television championship from Philippe Jackson, as well as Brian Baxter winning the North American Championship against Lizzie Rose and the ongoing F1 tournament as well. So to you, Tommy, with Alistair Black, any thoughts on the Alistair Black character and Raw's hunt for the World Championship?
Oh, I mean, to me right now, everything he has going with Alistair Black is just it's on its own level. At this point, I think that's one of the most engaging characters. Really, no matter what kind of, I know we all have our different styles and stuff that we write in, and in turn, we probably all have our own styles that we prefer reading. But just to me, everything pertaining to Alistair Black right now is must see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would completely agree. With that. And he has, as we're about to see in these standings, he has run roughshod over the F1 in Pool A. 4 wins out of 4. Same as Brian Baxter in Pool B, but obviously Brian Baxter still has a match against Cyrus Truth to come. So looking at standings there, now obviously we have got Gabrielle over Tommy at the moment, but Gabrielle no longer going to be in the tournament. Caden Knox taking her place. And really, it's going to come down to Bedlam and MVH. You would assume there. Actually, I guess. Well, I don't think we really should let Caden get into the semi-finals. We've just won one match right at the very end there, but we'll see. It would surprise me.
It's possible though, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, he's replacing Gabrielle as a punishment, so I don't know if it should even be allowed for him to get into the semi-finals, but we'll see about that. I think it is all going to come down to MVH v Bedlam really in Pool A, but we'll see. Obviously, Pool B a lot more complicated. There we could have any one of Cyrus, Lizzie, or Peacock getting into the semi-finals in that second spot, and of course Cyrus could, if he defeats Brian Baxter, he would leapfrog him into first position there, setting up a match with, as I say, either myself, I'm not MVH, but either MVH or Tommy Bedlam.
Live the gimmick.
Yeah, live the gimmick. Okay,
live the gimmick.
Tommy is.
Yeah, well, I'm miserable enough, but I'm unfortunately not female enough. But there you go. Right, so a couple of questions on the F1 then. So to both of you, what's been your biggest surprise of the tournament so far? That can be either in the form of an individual result, it can be in the form of somebody's form in the tournament, somebody overperforming, underperforming. Biggest surprise.
Well, for me, I think it's Brian Baxter. I don't think. I mean, looking at Pool B, it's a very. I think it was definitely, even a lot of things. I think I remember when we did the last podcast, we were talking about Pool B and looking at actually, this could be anyone's, but I don't think people expected Brian Baxter to go 4-0 in his first four matches. And I think that's just kind of speaks to how well Dub's done with the character. And we're all. I think it just took us all a bit by surprise. I think it's a bit similar to the Thomas West thing I was talking about earlier, where Dub's kind of taken a periphery character and made them a big deal, and it's the fact that Jeremy's kind of been pushed to a bit of periphery at the moment and focus on more character stuff with Jeremy has allowed him to kind of put a lot into Brian, and the promos he's been doing have been incredible. Those were 4 wins that he's definitely earned, and the people he's beaten as well. Myself included. He absolutely took me to the cleaners, which happens sometimes. But he absolutely smashed it, and I think he's definitely deserved the spot. And and then now with the North American title there as well, it's his first title. I don't think people would have expected Baxter to win something before Jeremy, but he has. So and I think that's just how well Dub's done. So that for me is kind of the biggest surprise.
Yeah, I'd say Dub is much better at writing than he is at grading, given that one loss on MVH's record. But we'll go to that. Tommy, how about you? Biggest surprise in the tournament so far?
It does surprise me seeing Baxter at the top, and that's not a shot at Dub and the work he's doing. But when you look at that side, it wouldn't have surprised me at all to see Truth up there, Peacock up there. Even all those names could have easily been at the top. And then as far over in our pool, I guess the big surprise has just kind of been the pool of chaos. Yeah. I spend a few days and I'm working on this promo for Danny Toner, and then Danny Toner's gone. And then I work on this promo for Caesar, and then Caesar's gone. So I've actually been thinking about just writing up fill-in-the-blank promos, just like form promos. And whoever grades them can just stick whatever the hell name they want to in there.
That'd be creativity. That'd be creativity points for sure.
You'd do well with someone like that.
Predictions going forward then. Predictions for the semi-finals and the winner there. Actually, let's just do predictions for winner, given where we've given what we've seen so far. Who do you fancy taking this tournament? Tommy, I'll come to you first.
I've got a really hard time picking against anything going on with Aleister Black. And I say that as his most recent victim, but
I would agree as his second most recent victim, but man.
Oh, as his third most recent victim, I think. I mean that Chris Peacock guy is looking quite good. So he can do it. But I think
the guy in fourth. You mean the guy in fourth? Okay, all right,
yeah. Him. I mean, he's usually in second. So
that's true. That's true.
So I think it is very hard to call, to be honest, because considering the semi-finals themselves could be anything. But I think I have to agree. I find it hard looking past Raw at the moment. He's with Aleister Black. He's been doing so well, and considering Aleister's now got a brand new tag team partner watching his back as well. Who can stop him really?
So following on from that, then, if Black does end up winning the F1, who do you think he will choose as his opponent? Because just like in NJPW's G1, if the world champion, if he is still world champion, at the end of the tournament, I shouldn't get ahead of myself, but if he is still world champion, who do you think Aleister Black would pick for his opponent?
So I mean, Raw and I have spoke briefly about this. Who would pick? I think it would depend. Character-wise, there are a few people I can see Alex picking, and I'll go for character-wise rather than rather than what I think Raw as a person would do.
Mhm.
I think Alistair would probably, if he was around Danny Toner, he'd want to prove himself against the person
Mhm.
he couldn't beat. Because Alistair's not the kind of person to back away from anyone. I can also see Alistair. I could see him picking someone just to test himself against. And someone that he's probably not faced before, and whether that's someone like, or someone he's not, had a match of that gravity against before. So if someone like Jeremy Best, or someone
Mhm.
like Cyrus, or
Yeah.
or Tommy, or Peacock, or Grayson. I'm just looking at names. All these could be viable choices.
Mhm.
There's someone that he might just want to give that opportunity to as well. Because that is part of Esteban's character. I think he would be open to giving someone who might not normally get an opportunity handed to them that opportunity. So,
Yeah. Interesting.
or he might just fuck with us and give it to Steve the Techno Vampire. So,
That's what I'd do. That's what I'd
yeah,
do for sure.
but AON would promo. Yeah, but I think those are my kind of guesses for if he was to win, who the kind of person he'd pitch it towards.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, so moving on to probably the most anticipated part of this podcast. We have the Nobel Prize for e-fedding to be given out. Well, these are obviously just the nominations. So we've had our nomination process now. We had 12 sets of votes in the end, which was good. And we now have the nominees for the 2022 FWA Awards to announce. So I'm going to read them out and then get your opinions on each category briefly. So the way it worked, we wanted 5 really nominees in each category where possible. If there was a tie for 5th position, then we have more than 5. But we also introduced the rule that you needed at least 2 nominations in order to get into these nominees. Otherwise, some categories would have ended up with 15 nominations in there. So starting with best promo. So you needed at least 3 votes to make the cut here. Actually, no, sorry. If anyone had got 2 votes in here, they would have made the cut. Because we have only 4 nominees here, and then below that we have a bunch of people with or a bunch of promos with one vote. So the 4 nominees for best promo are Alistair Black's The Ouroboros Anomaly at Lights Out. We have Danny Toner's Untitled promo at Back in Business. We have Danny Toner's Be Smart, Do More, Get Dirty at Lights Out. And we have Michelle von Horowitz's Perfume at the Grand March. Thoughts on the nominees there? I'll go to you, man, for your thoughts.
I can't really argue with any of them, to be honest. Those were all really strong promos. I actually can't remember which ones I nominated. I know I nominated at least 2 of those.
Mm-hmm.
Some others that kind of come to mind that I think we should definitely shout out. I mean, the Cyrus Truth, was it Meltdown 17, the really angry Cyrus Truth promo?
Yeah.
That was I think just in terms of a back to basics thing, but done perfectly.
I was going to shout out everything that did get a nomination, except for ones which only got 1 nomination, and it was by the handler themselves. I haven't listed those here, but
I think that's a name and shame kind of thing. I think.
No, there's more than one person. More than one person. But there you go.
But yeah, no, I think all of those definitely up there. All the up until the kind of the back of business stuff. That Michelle von Horowitz one was my kind of standout promo of the year. It was the way you tied everything in so perfectly, so that was great.
A particular shout out to Dub, who actually got 4 of his promos were nominated by 4 different people, but obviously it split the vote. Big Brian Baxter's Deal with the Devil and Lights Out, Brian Baxter versus Peacock, Brian Baxter versus Rose, and the Buddy System at Back in Business all got one nomination. Chris Peacock's Peacock Unleashed at Lights Out got a nomination. Gerald Grayson's Next at Meltdown 22 or Fallout 22 got a nomination. Alistair Black's Meltdown 22 world title winning promo, Cyrus Truth at Meltdown 17, as you mentioned. Michelle Van Horowitz versus Chris Kennedy at Back in Business, and also Thomas West at the Carnal Contendership, all picking up a nomination. But Tommy, what are your thoughts on the four in the final field there?
I mean, every one of those were obviously great choices. The Danny Toner Lights Out promo definitely stuck out to me. Mm-hmm. On my nominations on those, I kind of tried to pick some that I didn't necessarily think that a bunch of other people would nominate, just because I thought, like I know I nominated the Next, the Gerald Grayson promo, but yeah, the Toner one for Lights Out, and then the MVH one that was on there, I almost put that on my nom list, and I was like, no, this is going to get probably nominated several times by other people, so I was gonna.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Try to give some run to some promos that might have nominated that.
Yeah. Moving on to best character then, maybe. So 5 nominations here. So you needed at least 3 nominations to get into this. So the nominations for best character are Alistair Black, Danny Toner, Devin Golden, Michelle Von Horowitz, and Sean Summers are your 5 nominees for best character. Tommy, thoughts on the best character lineup?
I think it's pretty cool seeing Summers on there, just because it's, kind of you've got Black, Toner, Golden, and MVH. These guys who are characters that are up there in the world title scene, and by all means, I think it's going to be a nightmare trying to choose between those names, because Black is doing incredible work right now. Toner had a huge year, yeah, so
yeah, I think that one will end up being maybe a 2-horse race. Just looking at the number of nominations, it probably comes as no surprise that Black and Toner are ahead in the nomination stage. Man, thoughts on the field for best character?
Yeah, I think likewise. I'm very happy to see Sean Summers there.
Yeah,
the rightful TV champ, in my eyes anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The other 4, I think, are always ones you expect to see, for rightful reasons, really. Consistently some of the best characters in the Feds. The work that the Devin's done this year as well with his character, I think, is one, because he's kind of been in and out for periods of time as well. I don't think it'd been appreciated as much, but Devin Golden's character definitely stood out a lot for me this year, so I'm very glad to see him there as well. But I do think it could come down to kind of the 2 names you'd expect after the years those 2 people have had.
Yeah. Shout out to the other people who received nominations. Uncle JJJ picked up 2 nominations. Jeremy Best picked up 2 nominations, and Lizzie Rose picked up 2 nominations as well. All of which would have been suitable nominees in that category. In addition, okay, moving on to best tag team. Then you needed 3 nominations you needed 4 nominations to make it into the best tag team category. We have 5 nominees here, and in alphabetical order, they are the team of Bad Reputation, which is Gabrielle and Caden Knox. The Buddy System, which is Jeremy Best and Brian Baxter. We have The Connection, MVH and Gerald Grayson. The Men Out of Time, being Stu Grimes and Caesar. And finally, the Spirit Walkers, which are Aki Ray and Reagan Cole. So those are the 5 nominees in the category. Shout out to those that got nominations but didn't make it. Undisputed Alliance got 3 nominations, only just missing out. Golden Rock and Stock Market also picked up 1 nomination each, but the 5 for best tag team are Bad Rep, Buddy System, Connection, Men Out of Time, and Spirit Walkers. Thoughts? We'll come to you first this time, man.
Yeah, no, I think this was going to be a tough one because we have had some really good tag teams this year. The there was some going to have to get cut. You look at Undisputed Alliance, and Jimmy's done a lot of good stuff with them this year. But it's unfortunate to see them not making it. But those who are there definitely earn their spots, and I think this award probably even more hotly contested next year with kind of like the latter part of this year. More teams have been coming, and once those teams start getting themselves a bit more established, this will become a lot more competitive. So
yeah,
the tag team division is looking very promising at the moment, which is good as a fan of tag team wrestling. But yeah, no, 5 worthy nominees definitely.
Tommy.
Yeah, usually you can kind of look at these awards like this and just kind of figure out, okay, who had good title runs, who did this, who did that. But I mean, the tag titles moved around a lot this year, so
they did. You're right. Yeah, I think it's been a great year for the tag team division. I think the 2 in particular tag teams that stood out for me are the Men Out of Time and the Connection, both of whom have done wonderful things. Even if one of the handlers was kind of weighed down by another one of the handlers in both of those teams. No, I was disappointed.
Oz and Jam definitely had to pull that.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I was disappointed that the stock market didn't pick up more votes. I think maybe if they'd stuck around for longer than just Tag Wars, they might have snuck in there as well. But obviously with the past summer's feud going on, they weren't going to stay around as a 3-person unit, I guess.
Yeah.
Oops, I'll skip it on accidentally. Okay, moving on to Most Improved. So we have 4 nominations for Most Improved. You needed at least 2 votes to get in here, but 3 of the 4 got a lot more than 2 votes in this category. So the nominations for Most Improved, and it's handlers here, not characters. So it's Dub for his handling of Baxter and Best. We have Gip for his handling of Cole. We have OMB for his handling of Caden Knox, and we have our guest Tommy for his handling of Tommy Bedlam. Are the 4 nominations for Most Improved Writer, and that's obviously comparing the output back at the end of 2021 with the output now at the end of 2022. Man, thoughts on the field of 4 in that category?
Yeah, I definitely agree with all 4 of those. Tommy here, coming back, I think whilst, we saw glimpses of, this guy, knows what he's doing, in Tommy's first run, it's been the second run, the last few months has been, really good stuff being put out, definitely warranted. Gip is one who I think has kind of steadily improved throughout the year. He's picked up some big wins this year, and even in some matches where he's not come out on top, he's kind of taken people who you'd probably expect to be, definitely higher up the card than him. He's taken them to the limit. So, and especially with the tag reign as well, he's definitely stepped up a lot this year with, developing that character, and that's been great to see. And, we've spoken about Dub as well, who's, kind of got 2 characters he's just completely brought into his own, and they're completely different characters. And the way they've interacted. So, Dub's done a fantastic job, and OMB as well as someone who, we've seen improve. But I think Knox with his work with teaming with Gabrielle, this year was really good. I think that was kind of his highlight of the year. And now with what happened on the most recent Fallout, I'm very interested to see where that character goes next. So. Yeah. He's definitely got potential to potentially even be in for this award next year as well.
Tommy, what are your thoughts on the field and your 3 competitors in the Most Improved category?
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything remotely nice about Gip, but no. Actually, all jokes aside, I do think the Regan Cole character has made huge strides from last year when I first came around to where it is today. I think Gip's doing great work with that character. OMB with Caden Knox, yeah, I mean that's another one that I can look back to to reading his promos when I first signed up and into the beginning of this year, and then I look at where he's at now, and just the level of creativity has ramped up so much. But it's kind of going to be hard for me to bet against Dub on this one, just because, in not long before I left, Jeremy Best was kind of soaring to the top of the card, and he was doing great work with that. And now you just turn around and you add Baxter into it, and it's phenomenal work he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. On to the biggest category then, in terms of the number of nominees. I think we have 4, 5, 6, I think we've got 9 nominees for best match, none of which were written by me, which is very upsetting, but there you go. In fact,
so there's 14 things that got votes. The 9 that got into the nominations were not written by me. All 5 that didn't were written by me. BS.
Okay, so the nominations for best match are the Carnal Contendership match at Carnal. These are in chronological order. Carnal Contendership match at Carnal Contendership, which was written by Man. Sean Summers versus Mike Parr in the 3 Strikes match at Back in Business Night 1, which was written by CBK. We have Thomas West versus Danny Toner for the world title at Back in Business Night 2, which was written by Dijo. We have Jailhouse Blues 2, Fallout versus Meltdown at the anniversary show, which was written by Man. We have where was it? We have Cosmic Playground 2, The Nephew's Civil War, which was written by John from the anniversary show. And finally, the Golden Opportunity match, which was written by Man at Lights Out. So lots of Man, fair bit of Dijo, and a little smidge of CBK amongst there as well. So, so thoughts on that lineup. We'll go to you first, Man, seeing as you've dominated the field there.
I mean, it's no secret that it's kind of the part I enjoy most about modding is being able to write matches. It's I switched up BTB to refeds, so it's nice I can still write matches and stuff. I'm very happy with those 3 matches I wrote. I'm very pleased they were nominated and that people enjoyed them. All of them presented their own challenges, writing them. Kind of contendership. I've only mentioned it a couple of times. I wrote it on my phone with one hand, so it's 41-person battle royal. So just
I'd heard that. Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah, but the matches that are there as well were all very good matches as well. I mean, I think the fact that the Toner versus West match, which is the closest thing to just a straight singles match out of all those matches, just shows how that match stood out, and and that was just such a brilliantly written match by John.
Yeah.
The emotions he caught in it, that false finish as well. I remember, hearing about the reactions on the Discord when all that was happening, and everyone cheering for Tony. That's definitely up there. And the nephews, the Cosmic Playground 2. I mean, it was good. I'd argue it wasn't as good as the first, but it was still a very fun and entertaining match. And obviously there was the bullshit with the Lions, with the Lions dying. And also, I think I'm really glad to see the part of some of the matches there as well. As a mod, it is a dream when someone says, I would like to write my own match. I think whenever we hear anything like that, we all celebrate it in the staff room, because it means one less thing for us to do. And the fact that, they, Prod and CBK were so, invested in that match and that feud, and, it definitely showed in the write-up. So,
yeah,
glad to see that there. But I'm hoping, despite, I think, 2 years in a row having half the field, I hope I actually manage to win this time.
Well, if you look at not the amount of different things of yours that were nominated, but the amount of nominations that your matches got, you and DJ are tied on 10 nominations each. So it's pretty even in that regard. So even though you've got more matches, one of his had got quite a lot of nominations. So yeah, very, very even. Tommy, thoughts on the best match field?
Yeah, that was probably the hardest thing for me to put nominations together for. And part of that's probably because I have never had the balls to say, "Hey, can I write a match for this show?" I have no idea how you even pick the winner for this one. No clue.
You just pick one of mine. It's pretty easy.
Okay, that's how that works. I got you.
I would suggest.
I'm going to write in all of SS's matches.
Write in option. Best feud. We're moving on to now, and there are, I think, 5 nominations here. So we have Danny Toner versus Alistair Black, culminating at Lights Out. We have the Fallout versus Meltdown Brand Warfare feud. We have Danny Toner versus the Nephews. That's the J feud and the West feud. We have Devin Golden versus Chris Peacock. And finally, we have the year-long feud between Mike Parr and Sean Summers making the cut. So yeah, five more there. Anything to add to that, man?
I think, again, all worthy contenders. I think just some of the, and I use this without meaning to sound insulting at all. The kind of the lower down feuds. I think it'd be nice to see some more of those, and not things that were dominating the main events and the kind of all the headlines. So I definitely I nominated the 3-way feud between Buddy System, Undisputed Alliance, and Conchu, which I thought was kind of the special that arguably kind of defined a bit of fallout at the beginning of the year. Just watching that kind of build and develop, and Cyrus particularly were doing really good stuff with Conchu there, kind of the grieving process over Epsilon getting hurt, and I think UA just provided the perfect kind of heel foil to both to the 2 face sides of it, and it all kind of culminated in that 3-way match, which I thought was really good. And then I mentioned earlier like the Lizzie Rose Gabrielle stuff, and some of the other kind of smaller feuds going into Back in Business, but in all those that are there, I think without trying to, I know one of mine's there, but the others there, they definitely earned their spot. I would say, and personally, I'm pleased that mine and Devin's feud made it as well, because we both were very excited about that. Especially with the whole them ended up teaming up in ahead of Back in Business when they were going to face each other, and the whole Peacock being implicated and for stealing the belts, and Devin just kind of not being willing to see the bigger picture until the last moment, and then he got tapped out.
Yeah, that's fair. A shout out as well to Toner versus Golden versus Black, which missed out by 1 vote in this, and I feel like, there's an argument to be made that Toner versus Black and Toner versus Golden versus Black could have been rolled into kind of one nomination there, but we chose to keep them separate. But yeah, so that 3-way feud missed out by just the 1 vote there. It could very easily have been part of that field as well. Tommy, any particular feuds that you remember fondly amongst that field or outside of that field?
For me, I'll probably always kind of look back at this year as a lot of the Meltdown versus Fallout brand stuff, but I think I've mentioned it on the channel before. I'm a sucker for a well done invasion story, a brand war story.
Actually, there's one more thing. Where the fuck is Steve the Techno Vampire versus Ratty McKitchen?
Unfortunately, it's on TV every week. That's where it is, unfortunately.
Next year.
Right. Best storyline. Moving on to best storyline. So we've got another 5 nominations here. We've got Rupert Watkins and Fallout Succeed from the Union. We've got the formation and travails of executive excellence. We've got Danny Toner rises to the top. We have Alistair Black chases down the World Championship. And finally, we have Devin Golden's coma, solipsisms, World Championship reign, and general off-kilter behaviour. So those are your 5 nominations there for best storyline. We'll go to Tommy first for this. Which one of those stands out for you?
Well, I believe that all 3 of the ones that I nominated are on that list.
Yeah.
So, and that'll be a tough one to try to vote on too. Just because again, the Rupert Watkins taking Fallout and leaving is obviously a big story, but then the meteoric rise of Danny Toner is really up there. So
man.
I think it's a very tough category, that one. My comments kind of from the previous one kind of transfer a bit. Is dominated by the stuff that was kind of top of the card things. I'm happy to see Devin in there because like I've said a few times already, his character work's been great, and all the funny voice, it's all just little things like that he's added to it. I think it's been really good, all kind of engaging things, which is what you want from a storyline. So, and they got big engagement from the community. So I think all definitely deserve to be there.
Yeah. Best show of the year. So we have five nominations here, all pay-per-views. We have the King of the Death Match gets in there. We have the anniversary show. We have Lights Out, and we have both nights of Back in Business Spot Night 1 and Back in Business Night 2. Just missing out were Fallout the Musical, Meltdown 10, and Carnal Contendership. So King of the Death Match, anniversary show, Lights Out, BIB Night 1, BIB Night 2. Man, which one of those is your favourite?
My favourite, and I don't actually think I nominated it, but thinking about like kind of a recap, I actually think it's probably anniversary show for me. I don't think it actually was in my nominations, but like I said, we've reflected on it, and I've been thinking kind of about how the whole vibe was, and that and potentially night 2 of Back in Business as well. Were good, and I'm glad King of Deathmatch made there as well. And I think USS need a kind of special shout out for your work on that, because that was almost entirely, aside from a bit of grading, and I'm not sure if John helped with a bit of writing, but that wasn't entirely your endeavour, and it came off so well. So well done to you on that. That's definitely your awards if that show does end up winning it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to win, but it was nice to see it get nominated. Thanks. Tommy, any of those shows stand out to you?
I'll say that I have a soft spot for Lights Out because that was kind of when I came back.
Yeah.
But also I felt like that was a really good show because I'm almost sure that was our first pay-per-view on Wrestle Smarts.
Yeah.
Wrestling Smarts.
It was our first show on there,
yeah.
I think. Was it? Our first exclusive show on there, I think.
Yeah, okay. So I think it was a huge deal to kind of land there and hit a home run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree.
I feel like that made a big impact. So
absolutely. Your best title reign nominations, we have the connection somehow with the tag team championships have snuck into this. We have Chris Crow with his North American Championship. We have Danny Toner with his FWA World Championship. We have Harry the Sane Wizard with the Gauntlet Championship. And I think that's no, of course that's not it. We also have Alistair Black with the X Championship. So those are your 5 nominations. Just missing out with Moot with the tag titles, Golden Rock with the tag titles, and Devin Golden with the world title. So Devin Golden doubly unlucky in that category. But we have Black's X reign, Connection tag reign, Crow's North American reign, Harry's Gauntlet reign, or Toner's World Championship reign. Tommy, thoughts on those nominees?
I'm sitting here looking at two or three that could easily win in my eyes. I think it's kind of hard to go against Black, but Toner's reign was incredible. Kind of, little biased again, going back to the Death Switch days, but Crow's run with the NA title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Crow's. I was surprised when I was going through and putting together the recap how deep into the year Crow's North American reign went. Just because I guess it's just been a long year, but yeah, it was 6-7 months into the year he was still the North American champion. Man, any thoughts on the title reigns? Any that stick out to you?
I think all again worthy. I think there's a front runner clearly, but I'm glad that the Chris Crow and also the Harry Gauntlet reign got a bit of recognition as well, because we were talking up who could anyone actually get into 5, and then John shows up with his 5th character. Then does it. So I think he deserves a bit of credit for that.
Rookie of the year, then. So another 5 nominations here. We have in alphabetical order. We have Dark Traveller, the handler of Darius Wright. We have Dub, who sneaks in by the Chris Peacock rule of being allowed in if you debuted in the last 3 months of the year. We have Jeff, or Dustin DeWind, gets in with his Jeffrey Mason character. First nominee who's never promoted, which is an achievement. Tiger Princess for her handling of Vampira and Princess Nova. And we have Welshie for his handling of Anderson Vega. Those are your 5 nominees for Rookie of the Year. You can see from the number of nominations that there are 2 standouts really in the Rookie of the Year category, just because of how long Dub's been around and how involved Vampira has been since joining. Man, thoughts on the Rookie of the Year?
First of all, I'm calling fraud watch on Jeffrey Mason. That shouldn't be there.
Why not? Why not?
He's not done a promo, mate.
Yeah, but he's done segments and he's done matches.
I know. But yeah, I don't know. I think didn't Dub win it last year?
I thought you won it last year.
No, I didn't win it. No, because I was encouraging people not to vote for me. I was telling people to vote for Dub. I'm pretty sure Dub won it last year.
Okay, well, I hope he's a 2-time champ.
I think for me, I think the standout has been Vampira. Just the way she's kind of just come in and just got so involved in terms of match writing segments. Very keen. Again, just kind of a mod's dream. She's definitely who I'm putting forward in the
category. Tommy, anything to add to the Rookie of the Year?
No, I'm not going to vote on that one based on protest, because I signed up so late in the year last year that I didn't get any. I don't think I got nominated last year, and then since I debuted before September, I'm not eligible this year, so I'm pretending that this category doesn't exist.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I'm boycotting Rookie of the Year as well.
Yeah.
On to best moment then. Hopefully you can still hear me. On to best moment, we have another 5 or 6 nominations here. We've got Nova Diamonds cash in on Devin Golden. We have Crash and Randy Ramon drone back in business. We have Danny Toner finally wins the FWA World Championship at Back in Business. We have Danny Toner joining Executive Excellence at the end of Back in Business. And we have Alistair Black winning the world title on Meltdown following the Battle Royale. 5 huge moments there. I think the standout to me is probably the cash in, but but yeah, any one of those could win. Man.
It's a tricky one. I think it'll be one of the two things that happened at the end of Back in Business. Both were, for different reasons, big moments. You know, the whole crescendo of Tig finally winning the title, everyone, being happy about that, and then everyone going the other way and being betrayed by what happened straight afterward. So, and kind of what that led into. So I think either one of those could be it. You're right about the cash in. Sorry, by Nova. That was just a big moment, and I feel like I still feel like we need to apologise to TGO for not telling him about it.
Yeah, we probably do need to apologise for that.
I had no idea that was happening, and we switched out the end of the show on him just before we posted it, and because obviously we'd all graded it and been aware of it was happening, and but thankfully he took it in very good grace. So I think any of those could definitely do it.
Tommy, thoughts on best moment? You there, Tommy? I think maybe we lost Tommy.
Sorry. He did mention he had really bad kind of weather where he is.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. So that's the end of our super special guest. I think the snow might have done for Tommy Bedlam, but there you are.
Yeah.
Moving on to the best return, then we've got Chris Kennedy, Jason Randall, Philip A. Jackson, and Tommy Bedlam, leaving just before his big shout out there. But there you go. Man, best return thoughts.
Well, I think it's just left, but I think he's probably my favourite for this.
Okay.
Just in terms of the work he's done since he came back. Be a big shout out to Philip A. Jackson as well. I think him coming kind of completely from nowhere with a Cardinal contendership promo was quite a big deal. Quite a big deal was made of that in the staff room. And admittedly, just because all of his involvement was well before my time, a lot of it was a bit lost on me. Showed, and me learning a bit more about the character has definitely showed kind of why he's got the status he does and what he commands. So him coming back was a big surprise. We're very happy to have him back.
Absolutely. So best non-mod, the final category here, best non-mod. We have an original name who is nominated, I assume, for show reviews as well as his work on NGW. We have Comeback Kid, who's obviously been nominated for all of his amazing graphics that he puts together, many of which you've seen on the video of this podcast. We have Gipper for his brilliant opening credit videos, even if the music leaves a lot to be desired, but we won't go into that again. Yeah. We have Hemlock for his great work on Ground Zeroes and on record keeping and that kind of thing, which is extremely important. And then we have Smooth Jazzwolf, who again nominated, I assume, primarily for his work with NGW, but also for just being an all-round swell guy. So those are our 5 nominations for best non-mod. There were also nominations for Tig there. And there was 1 nomination for BV as well, who's done a lot since joining the Fed in the last few months. So that's your best non-mod. I won't ask you to comment on that, on your favourite there, man. But any thoughts on anybody who maybe didn't get a nomination there, who you feel maybe should have done?
Just trying to think, actually. I think kind of a lot of people, just for kind of their involvement in our community and in the Discord, for just kind of being part of it all and helping make the experience absolutely better for everyone. So I think a big shout out for everyone for that, and everyone in our community is valued, are an important piece, and it would be different without them. And I think, a bit of a shout to the people who, it might not necessarily have anything to do with the Fed, but the guys who regularly on the streams and stuff. That's a big part of the community
Yeah.
that that some of us choose to enjoy. So Raw Roz, Jay and Jeff and OB, or everyone who gets involved with those. It's all it's all part of the experience and why being part of the FWA is so enjoyable for a lot of people.
Yeah. Also, a shout out to everyone that helped out with the archiving in the middle of the year. That was really helpful. All right, so very briefly, man, because we have been on a long time now, but quick look ahead to 2023. So in 15 seconds or less, I've got 4 questions here, so that's 1 minute total, man. So 15 seconds. Right. What are you looking forward to most in the FWA for 2023?
Chris Peacock, world champion.
Okay. Who do you think will become world champion for the first time in 2023?
Chris Peacock.
Any predictions for the year ahead?
I think in terms of what we're going to be doing, some of the ideas I think we've already discussed. I think from the mod team, the kind of things we're going to want to put out, and I think we've developed a bit of a tradition where we have some sort of big tournament every year. So something like that, and what form it will take, no idea, but I'm looking forward to whatever it is we come up with.
Yeah. What are your goals for your own character? You've already sort of answered that twice. But...
I want to. My ultimate goal this year, I want to try and complete the Grand Slam this year.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
You've only got one. I want to be. I'm
on 1 out of 4, but I want to beat you to it.
It's just not going to happen.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Trust me.
Right.
I think you should answer the same questions.
I will do. Yeah, I was going to go to Tommy, but I'll do that instead. So, what am I looking forward to most in the FWA for 2023? I'm looking forward to 2 things mostly. 1, Cosmic Discordant Wrestling getting off the ground, and 2, Chris Peacock's unsuccessful cash in for the World Championship. No, seriously, number 2, I do think Chris Peacock will become the world champion for the first time in 2023. So we've got Peacock for 2. 3, any predictions for the year ahead? Well, I've just given you 1. I think that the carnal contendership winner this year is going to be Cyrus Truth. That's my prediction for the carnal contendership. And question 4, what are your goals for your own character? Tag team champions all year. That's what we're going for. So you can pick up the other 2 if you want this year, man, because I'm not going to go anywhere near them. But yeah, we want to keep that tag team championship for the year.
Well, you know who my partner is, so.
Yeah, I've heard of him. I've heard of it. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me, man. And although Tommy's disappeared, thank you, Tommy. If you listen back to the end of this, thank you for joining us on the podcast and giving your thoughts. That's it for tonight. That just leaves me to wish you all good night, good luck in the next cycle, and yeah, we'll see you again for the next edition of the Untitled FWA podcast. Peace.
See you later.